Associate Professor Heather Anderson has been with 4ZZZ for over 30 years. She's an academic. She specialises in community radio. Heather knows 4ZZZ so well, Heather, that you're literally writing the book on it.
To a point, yes. I will never claim that it's the book. There are so many stories about 4ZZZ. I've just made an attempt to try and capture some of the stories and especially those around my time at the station, which has branched from the early 90s up until now. But yeah, I feel like the book would have been 3 times as long if I'd tried to include all the stories even I just wanted to include.
Have you worked out who's going to play you in the movie yet?
Not yet. It's so difficult. I mean, I was so young back then too.
As Bob Dylan once said, I was so much older then, I'm younger than that now.
Yeah, wise words.
Yeah. So you've been with 4ZZZ for over 30 years. Lots have changed in that time, but one thing that has never changed is the values of ZZZ.
Absolutely. And I think that if anything, the values are more at the front of what 4ZZZ is now than ever before. And I really believe that is part of the reason why the station has managed to stay successful for such a long time and why it is still very relevant in 2025. After all that we heard about the internet and digital, the digital platforms taking over media, and that idea that anyone can do anything they want from the comfort of their own home, I think that it's the values of 4ZZZ that have kept it as a community radio station to still thrive today, yeah.
And why we're having this discussion is that it's coming up to the 50th anniversary of 4ZZZ. 4ZZZ started when Joh Bjelke-Petersen was the dictator of Queensland. This is an incredible achievement that a radio station like this could start when a tyrant was in power.
Yep. Well, one of the reasons for taking the radio route and for the founders of ZZZ to be lobbying for community radio to be established in Australia more generally was that radio and telecommunications is legislated nationally. So it was very at the front of people's minds back then that by getting a formal radio license, that was bypassing the state government and bypassing Joh Bjelke-Petersen. So with the Whitlam government in the national platform at the time, it made it a lot more attractive to be able to get a radio license that the state government did not have any control over.
But when he went out of power, that derailed 4ZZZ for some time.
Yeah, well, it was interesting, and this was before my time, but the general consensus was that around the mid-80s, it was becoming more difficult to staff 4ZZZ. The finances were not as healthy as they once were. ZZZ still didn't take any sponsorship at all at that point. And putting on gigs was becoming much more difficult to do, which was a major source of income for ZZZ up until that time. So in that mid-80s and then into, I think it was like maybe 86, 87 that Joh Bjelke-Petersen was finally kicked off the throne, I guess, so to speak. It was still his party in government, but not him as the leader. And pretty much most of 4ZZZ's main supporter base had either left Queensland to flee that dictatorship. And then the other part was that once Joh was gone, the threat was sort of gone. And I've got this beautiful quote from one of our main volunteers at that time, David Lennon, who basically said, like, who is Batman without the Joker? What is 4ZZZ's purpose now that Joh Bjelke-Petersen's gone? And it's been suggested by quite a few people that if the student union at UQ hadn't had a change in leadership and Victoria Brazel and the the Better Alternative Party, which was the first Conservative party to be voted into a student union at University of Queensland, which is where 4ZZZ was based. They tried to evict 4ZZZ very spectacularly in the early hours of the morning. And that basically attracted everyone's attention back to 4ZZZ and made people realise that the station wasn't going to be there unless it had support. So, yeah, with the loss of a listener base from people, running away from Queensland, and then not really feeling like there was a purpose for Triple Z once Bjelke-Petersen was gone, that Conservative Student Union really did Triple Z a favour by trying to kick them out, because it made people realise that they did still want 4ZZZ to keep running.
And I guess to that point, the word community comes to mind. Commercial radio tends to have lost track with the community. It's all networked nationally, and there's, very little coming from the hometown anymore. The word community means inclusion, and that's been a big part of 4ZZZ, hasn't it? And particularly, it's been a big part of your voice on 4ZZZ.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that whilst we can all produce the media that we want to produce from the comfort of our own home, so long as we've got the privileges of an internet connection and the media software, it's not the same thing as having a physical space that people can go to. And I think that there's the community involved with bringing people together, but there's also that community involved where people from really different backgrounds are all exposed to and introduced to one another. And I think that that's one of the beauties of community radio stations, is that you have people from the queer community, from prisoner communities, and from environmentalists, and then there's all the different genres of music that attract people, and all of those different people might not necessarily meet each other if they just go about their daily lives, but having that radio station that brings all of those diverse communities together, I think really enhances everyone's education and everyone's lives, so to speak.
Well, let's talk about one of those communities and a show that you've been involved with over the years, Locked In, which is a fascinating format. And for those who don't know the show, it's about prisoners who are in jail and they write letters, and these get broadcast on the radio station. That must be an incredible feeling, being behind the microphone and absorbing that information and then having the job to relay that information to the audience.
Yeah, it's a tough gig, and I always have the utmost respect for whichever group of announcers it is that is running Locked In, because it is really hard work. It's very difficult to be a part of that program and to not get involved and care about the lives of the people who are involved. I did the show for about 10 years, from the 2005-ish, I think, and yeah, it's a fantastic format because it's, Australia is a very big country, and our cities tend to put the prisons right on the outskirts. So unless you have a car or have good access to transport, it can be really difficult to visit people in prison, even if you live in the same city as them. So that takes away even the fact that anyone that lives in the regional towns and their loved ones are incarcerated in the city. So that capacity to be able to send messages of love and hope to one another, letters coming from people who are incarcerated, speaking to their families through their letters, and then also people on the outside sending through text messages or coming in on the show and speaking that way. It's a really lovely way to connect people, because it's very important to remember that the vast majority of people who are in prison are only there for a short amount of time. It's, when I think, we have, for most of us, we've never had any exposure to prisons. And so we imagine, we're informed from television and movies about what, prisons are and what the people who are incarcerated there are like. But the reality is that most people only are serving very short sentences, and they are going to be back in the community. So one of the best ways that we can, assist for people to stay connected with those communities is to provide this, means of, of exchange of messages and letters of support. Yeah.
And looking at the diversity of the programming for the community, 3 very different programs: Dykes on Mics, Workers' Power, Indigi Briz. You've got, the gay lesbian community there. You've got workers being represented with that second one, and the Indigenous community there. That's really intertwining with a community, and that is something that commercial radio goes nowhere near.
Yes, yeah. And also even within there, one of the things that I think Triple Z is doing really well now is not siloing those communities, so that, we can have First Nations people who are also involved with Dykes on Mics, and you can have queer people that are involved in union issues. And if we just come back a little bit to Locked In again, one of the things that the main announcers for that program are doing at the moment is setting up a pathway for people when they come out of prison. In the past, if they were to get involved with Triple Z, they would join Locked In and they would be involved in that program. And now they're recognizing that that doesn't define someone, and so Locked In, one of the first things that they do now is to say, hey, if you want to get involved in broadcasting, what other programs can you get involved in? Let's not silo you into this one community, and recognizing that intersectionality across not just representing lots of different diverse communities, but ensuring that those communities are all interconnecting with one another. So I think it takes it even a step further than having that diversity. It's recognizing that those diversities aren't siloed from one another.
And 4ZZZ isn't just about what comes out the speaker, it's about getting into the community. One of the great things about the 50th anniversary is all of the celebrations that are coming up over coming months. You're involved with Beerstock. Tell me what you're going to be doing with Beerstock, and please tell me it'll be handing out samples and I'll be there at the front of the queue.
Yes. Yeah, so Beerstock was a fundraiser that first started, from memory, around the early 2000s. We've had a lot of traditional fundraisers in the past, and this one was, the idea was to have a little mini music festival that happened all day at a venue. And there was a time when free kegs of beer was part of the, to get people through the doors at 2:00 in the afternoon when the gig started, there would be free kegs. I'm not sure if we can responsible service of alcohol allows for that anymore. And a lot of those gigs were organised by Rolo, who was a performer and venue operator, promotions person, was very important to the Brisbane music scene for a long time, who passed away a few years ago now. And Rolo was announcer at 4ZZZ as well, and also worked in the promotions department. And yeah, he was one of the people that was originally involved with putting on Beerstock. So we're bringing back Beerstock to sort of recognise that era of fundraising, to honour Rolo as well. It's being held on his birthday weekend, which is not by accident. His daughter Atisha is very much involved with organising it as well. And the bands are a real mix of bands from the Beerstock era, but we've also got newer bands and then even some older bands as well. So we've tried to sort of represent that punkier, heavier side of Triple Z's audience, and really representing bands across the whole, maybe not the 50 years, but definitely from 80s through to active bands now. And and my a band that I play in, Holidays for Hoodies, closing out the show, which will be a lot of fun because we're a covers band that destroy all your favourite 80s pop songs. So yeah, we feel really privileged to be finishing up that birthday party.
Oh, tell us some of the songs you're going to murder.
We totally destroy Total Eclipse of the Heart. We slaughter Dragon's Reign. And we've got a few, we're going to do a few new ones, so I won't give too much away.
Of course, it's called Beerstock because protein shake stock just wouldn't draw a crowd.
Just doesn't have the same ring.
Yeah. One of the events I'm really excited about, it's going to be a huge one, the Z50 on the 25th of October, and two iconic Brisbane acts headlining, the Saints, 1973 to 1978, and Regurgitator. And then looking across that bill, I mean, what a bill you got here. A Tropical Fuck Storm, Full Flower Moon Band, Big Nota, which is Briggs's metal band. This is an absolutely amazing lineup. That's going to be an exciting day too.
Yeah, and I also have to highlight Flangipanis. They are, by far one of my favourite Brisbane bands and have been really involved with 4ZZZ for a long time. I think 3 of the 4 members of the band all volunteer at 4ZZZ and have done for a long time. They have nailed the Hot 100 on multiple occasions, including a hat trick where they got number 1 3 years in a row. So in terms of bands that are near and dear to the 4ZZZ heart, you just can't ignore Flangipanis being on that bill as well.
Well, Butterfingers, Screamfeeder, Nice Biscuit, Party Dozen, Dancingwater, Platonic Sex and
Velociraptor.
Velociraptor, there you go. Heather, it's been great to catch up with you. Exciting times for Brisbane. It's fantastic that there is something like this in Brisbane, and we have Triple R and PBS in Melbourne and FBI in Sydney. Community radio right around the country is probably doing more important things, particularly for Australian music, but for the community than you're going to find on any commercial radio station anywhere at the time. So it's been good to catch up with you.
Excellent. Thanks, Paul.